All right, ladies and gents, this is the final PowerPoint from the Great Depression. This is how Hoover dealt with the Great Depression. Before we jump into that, we got to talk about Hoover's philosophy before the Depression even happened. He didn't really believe in direct federal relief to the needy because he believed that this would reduce the self-respect of people. He didn't want to disrespect them. Number two, he didn't want to inflate the federal budget, meaning spend way too much money and make the government too big. So it kind of went against him just giving handouts to people. We believe in this concept of rugged individualism, the idea that people can pick themselves up. America has had a history of, finding a way. Okay, so people will find a way out of this. They don't need the help from the government. The other idea is he believes in localism, is that the federal government in D.C. can't help somebody out in California. The people that can help out the people in California are the cities and the state of California. So they can solve those problems a lot better than some place down in D.C. So rely on private charities, and the federal government just didn't have enough money to help every single state in the union. So this is just a picture of Hoover's philosophy. Look after yourself. You don't need anybody else. The government shouldn't have to step into your lives. Figure it out on your own. So this is what he relies on the Salvation Army and private donors going and supplying food and supplies to all these people. The problem is, who has money to donate to the Salvation to provide all these means? Boosting the economy. He does go against his own philosophy and the philosophy of the Republicans. He goes against the idea of laissez-faire, and he decides to inject a lot of money into the country to kind of boost them up a little bit. He starts a massive public works program. He helps build the Boulder Dam out in Boulder, Colorado, and this later becomes the Hoover Dam, provided electricity and also reduced flooding in that area. Massive, massive program. You can still see it today. More than 800 public buildings. These are like libraries and post offices and schools, all built because I'll get to that in a second. And he also built 37,000 miles of highway. The reason why he spent all this money is that anybody can do a construction job. So if you hire somebody who is a lawyer, he can take this job. He gets paid a little bit. Hopefully, he takes that money and purchases stuff and gets the businesses back on track. That's the thinking behind a public works program. Plus, that stuff can actually help people with all the cars and all the other needs for people. These public buildings would help. This is just an image of the Hoover Dam. Look how massive it is in 1936 and how quickly they were able to build this massive dam. All right, pretty cool place. Provides electricity for Las Vegas and a couple other places. He also came up with the Reconstruction Finance Corporation. Good idea. He was going to lend up $2 billion. This money was going to go to the banks to help make sure that they didn't fail, the insurance companies, railroad companies, and other financial institutions. So it sounds like a good idea, right? Not so much. The problem with it was, one, it was way too late. He did this in like 1932. He should have done it in 1929, 1930. There's also no direct aid to industries. So the businesses that are failing, they're not getting in as money. It's great it's going to the banks, but the banks aren't going to give loans out to these industries. So he's still relying on this trickle down theory. That money did not trickle down to small businesses and factories. Last but not least, people who are really suffering, there's no money given to them. So great trickle down theory. Eventually they'll get their money, but what are they going to do now to pay for their bills and pay for their medicine and etc. So that's the reason why ARPC is not the most efficient thing. Because capitalism seemed like it was failing, there was a lot of protests against it, especially from socialists and communists. They're saying, hey, capitalism stinks. Why are we still using it? Let's become a socialist or a communist country. So they started protesting all across the country. They had unemployed leagues to show how dissatisfied they were with the government and society in America. And labor unions started becoming a little more active, going on strikes to shut down whatever businesses were left. There's just an image of the Unemployed Citizens League of Seattle protesting within the city. The Bonus Army. The Bonus Army was actually a bunch of World War One vets who were promised a bonus for their service in World War One. The problem is they weren't allowed to get that bonus until about 1940. And their argument is, we're supposed to get it. Why don't you just give it to us now? Because we're all suffering. So they go to Congress to demand that this bill gets passed. but Congress rejects it. Most of the people leave Washington, D.C., but 2,000 vets defy this order and they remain there. And the army is sent in and they remove them using machine guns, tanks, and tear gas. It's actually led by Douglas MacArthur, who's going to play a huge role in World War II. Here's a couple images of it. Here's them camping out in Congress, waiting to see if the bonus bill is going to get paid so they can get that money that they want to get now instead of waiting until 1940. This is the little town that they set up. Kind of looks like Hooverville. All right, and this is where they're going to be evacuated by the military. This is Douglas MacArthur, who was forced to remove them using tanks and tear gas. This is actually a couple of the World War One vets fighting with police officers. I think it's kind of ironic that they're fighting and you have an American flag right there. And this is those same little towns that were set up, those little Hoovervilles that were set up outside D.C., getting burnt down to the ground by the U.S. military with Congress in the back, the big Capitol dome overlooking. So the bonus bill never got passed, and it's kind of a shame that the army was sent in to fight against our vets who sacrificed in World War. Last but not least, we have an election, 1932. Are they going to stay with Hoover, who they're naming the Hoover bills and Hoover blankets and everything else after, or are they going to bring new blood in with a Democrat, Franklin D. Roosevelt, who actually suffered from polio, meaning he was paralyzed from the waist down, and who was also pretty successful as the governor of New York in 1928. This is him, so you say he's paralyzed. How the heck is he standing up? As you can tell, he's holding on to his son's arm right there, and he actually has braces on his legs to keep his legs intact. The public actually did not know he was paralyzed, and if they knew he was paralyzed, they probably would not have elected him. Roosevelt wins in a blowout. It's not even close, and as a result, the Democrats have majorities in both houses of Congress. So the executive branch and the legislative branch is all owned by Democrats, meaning it's going to be really easy for them to pass laws. And they're going to pass so many laws in the first 100 days of Roosevelt's presidency. We'll check it out next chapter. Here is the Electoral College. You thought Al Smith's election was pretty bad. This one was even worse. FDR wins pretty much every state except for like 6. That's insane. All right, so we'll see what happens with FDR and his New Deal, a new deal to the American people. Good luck.